The Winneba High Court has dismissed an application filed by the University of Education Winneba challenging the capacity of a former assemblyman to sue the university and whether the High Court at Winneba is competent to hear the case. The court ruled that the plaintiff, Supi Kofi Kwayere, has the capacity to sue. Correspondent Richard Kwejonyakon, who was at the court for JoyNews on Monday, reports that the High Court has ruled that the court itself is clothed with jurisdiction to hear the matter.
Supi Kofi Kwayere, a former assemblyman at Winneba, in May this year sued the University of Education and the Education Ministry for what he said was the unlawful extension of the school's governing council's tenure and accused the governing council of misappropriating the funds of the university after the expiration of their tenures in 2013 in his reign. During the last sitting of the Winneba High Court that led to the University of Education reopening the university after the school was alleged to have misconstrued the orders of the court by closing the university temporarily. Flowing from that, counsel for the defendant, that is the University of Education, Peter Zuenis, filed the following motions. One that challenged the capacity of the plaintiff, that is Supi Kofi Kwayere. According to the defense counsel, the plaintiff has no locus. The other that challenged the capacity of the court from hearing the matter. On this, the defendant believes that the court lacks jurisdiction. And the third one that borders on an application for joinder, a matter which the court is yet to rule on. At today's sitting, the court dismissed two of the motions and has set Wednesday to rule on the joinder application filed by the counsel for the defendants to allow the University of Education, Winneba branch of UTAG, to join the suits. Counsel for the plaintiff, Alex Kwamina Afenyo-Markin, spoke to the media after the hearing.
That the court has jurisdiction to hear the matters that we have brought. It is also clear that Supi Kwayere, as a citizen of Ghana, has the capacity to bring an action in the public interest and to see that the right things are done by state institutions. And then finally, the fact that the nature of the application, the court said yes. The mode that was chosen by him was right in law. I am only holding the brief of counsel for the matter, and I am expressing the joy of Supi in that respect. This action is not being brought to frustrate any individual or is not being brought in bad faith. It is being brought for the public good. And you would also understand that if somebody lives in a society where people depend on institutions like the university, it is important that they get to engage the university or stakeholders who have such functions to support the community. Winneba has been there in terms of socio-economic issues, the politics of Ghana, and it is important that its citizens benefit from institutions like the university. So we are all looking at the betterment of Winneba. We are all looking at the betterment of the university. We are all looking at the betterment of higher institutions such as the university to function and act within the confines of the law. There is no bad faith in here, and we expect that courageous and patriotic citizens like Supi Kofi Kwayere be celebrated.
I have to turn our attention to agriculture, and despite repeated assurances by government that the fall armyworm invasion is under control, the pests continue to attack farm fields in various parts of the country. Currently, an estimated 25,000 hectares of farm fields have been infected, up from only about 1,400 hectares as at April this year. And farmers have made huge losses as a result of these invasions. That is a focus for our latest Hotline documentary, Rampaging Soldiers. Here are excerpts of the documentary by Joseph Opoku-Gakpo.
All 10 regions of the country have recorded incidents of fall armyworm invasion. I took a tour of some affected areas. Let's begin in the central region, where more than 1,500 hectares of farmlands have been destroyed. In the Asin South district alone, the farms of about 250 farmers growing about 4,000 acres of farmlands have been destroyed. District Chief Executive Derek Osuambro says the invasion is getting out of hand.
I don't know whether maybe there have been some sort of resistance to the chemicals that we are using at the moment. The farmers will be spraying, but day in, day out, you see reinfestation. The ones that we sprayed, you see the worms reinfesting that same farm. I don't know whether maybe it has got to do with the eggs. It could be that maybe the eggs, the chemicals do attack the worms, leaving the eggs. So the new eggs hatch and there's reinfestation. So I think we need to do more research about this kind of infestation. The worms look simpler, but the rate at which they destroy it and the mechanism at which they attack the farms, I think there's a sort of resistance that we have to have a second look at.
The Asin Insuta Senior High School owns a 14-acre maize farm. They are hoping to feed the students from this field, but the armyworms will not allow that.
Now we spend almost 400 Ghana cedis on controlling them outside what the government has given us.
What do you envisage will be the consequence if the whole thing is not really brought under control in terms of the devastation on the fields?
Yeah, I think that will affect our food production rate, and that is, it means we will not be in a position to have enough to feed the student. The repayment of the loan or the input that we had from the government will be a problem.
Kofi Jamra is one of the farmers whose fields have been destroyed. He laments repeated application of recommended chemicals have not helped stem the destruction of his 2-acre cornfield, on which he invested more than 4,000 cedis.
I've been farming for 13 years now, but this year, something they call fall armyworm invaded our farms.
13 times from the infancy. Third farm.
I've applied chemicals on about 13 different occasions, but still, I've really suffered. They have destroyed 3 of my farms totally.
2.5 acres. Omari is condemned.
The Ghana Armed Forces says public antagonism against the military threatens the peaceful coexistence of soldiers and civilians. Commander of the 4th Battalion of Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel Sebastian Ahin, describes what he says is a growing trend as worrying. He was speaking at the induction of newly posted soldiers, a ceremony known as Steeple Chase in Kumasi. Kwesi Debra reports.
The event involves competition in full military activities among the young soldiers. They covered a total distance of 10 kilometers in a race from the command headquarters and bark.
It's almost at the base, followed by Private Sowa, almost at the base, over.
The first and 2 runners-up received special awards besides unit lanyard and logo of the infantry presented to all personnel. Lieutenant Colonel Ahin says the exercise is meant to inform the public of the Army's security alertness.
The people of the region, and by extension the whole country, is to demonstrate that we are around, the military is around, and we are not dormant, though we are not in anything active for now, except for our patrols and all that we can. But this is just to communicate to the civil populace and importantly assure them that the military is always around to work with other security agencies in ensuring that there is safety and security in the region. So I've had situations where our soldiers go to town and then they have been attacked by civilians for most of the time for no good reason. And in the past, what happens is that the military will go into reprisal attacks. But what now we are doing is that we are educating them that even in a case like that, we should not take the law into our own hands, but we should ensure that we follow due process. As it is also, I want to use this opportunity to appeal to the civil populace that they should see the military as one of their own and continue to work hand in hand rather than being antagonistic to the military.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
And as government prepares to launch the second phase of the anti-galamsey fight, defiant people continue to ravage the environment. They are so determined they undertake their activity at night. 4 people, one of them with partial visual impairment, are in police grips in the Ashanti region. The Bosomtwe District Command picked them up in a special operation by the local assembly. Ohim Interior is reporting.
An early Monday soup at Amekom and Biposo led to the arrest of the suspects. They are 22-year-old Kwakwabwa, Kojoamankwa 55, Yaopoku 45 and Sophia Salifu. Police seized water pumping machines, Chamfai machine engines and other equipment during the operation. Officials of the Bosomtwe District Assembly say thousands of hectares of farmland are under siege. In spite of the ban, illegal mining continues at Amekum, Biposo, Aduapin and other communities. The miners use excavators and other equipment to undertake their activities at night, despite reports of mass withdrawal of such tools. It makes it difficult for security agencies to track the perpetrators. A joint police team from the Regional Special Weapons and Tactics Unit and Asokwa Divisional Police Command, however, made headway in the latest swoop. District Chief Executive Joseph Asumin led the operation. He tells JoyNews the rate of environmental degradation caused by illegal miners is devastating.
You have to do serious reclamation of the land. It's deep. There's so much environmental degradation. It's more or less, it can be used for anything until we have to do serious reclamation. Especially because they operate in the dark. They operate behind everybody. On our brand side, they operate in the night when everybody is asleep. So what we have to do is also come back and then strategize to get to them. But we have to do it based on intelligence.
Mr. Asumin says lives are under threat as peace left uncovered have become death traps.
People can easily fall into them, especially the kids. So they are death traps. They are now in police custody, and I hope that the police will put them before court. We are all waiting for the court to do its work. So we are hoping for so that it will serve as deterrent to others who intend to engage in such illegal activities to degrade our environment.
One of the suspects, 55-year-old partially blind Kojoamankwa, quit farming years ago to engage in the illegality at Biposo. He tells me he makes at least 30 Ghana cedis daily from illegal mining.
We have been farming all our lives. Someone set my farm on fire last year. It is now under rehabilitation. I shouldn't be doing galamsey at my age. It is the alternative means of livelihood.
Kojo says though he's aware of the ban on illegal mining, he thought it applies only to Chinese nationals.
It's not
that we are daring government. We thought the ban was restricted only to the Chinese, especially those who do alluvial mining. We are not being defiant. Who are we to challenge government?
DCE, Mr. Asumin says the Assembly will continue the relentless fight on illegal mining. From the Bosomtwe District in the Ashanti region for JoyNews, Ohim Interior reporting.
And before we go, the Chief Executive Officer of the Public Procurement Authority, Ajenim Boating AJ, says the authority is confident the electronic government procurement system to be rolled out shortly will minimize corrupt practices perpetrated during the procurement process. The PPA on Monday demonstrated how the new system touted as one to revolutionize procurement works. JoyNews' Joseph Akable was at the program and now reports.
So we are talking all about e-procurement and how this will help government in its drive to address issues of corruption. And I'll be engaging the man who is the project manager for the group that is fronting this particular project. They are the ones developing the software for government. His name is a bit tricky, so he mentioned his name himself. Say, what's your name?
Angelo Hatzikyriakos from European Dynamics in Greece.
Now, if I'm to understand, you are developing this system for government. Tell us more about it.
Okay, so as per our presentation earlier, the system is software that we already have. We have implemented the same software in a number of governments in the African continent, as well as in Europe, in Asia and Indonesia, as well as in the Caribbean for the national government of Jamaica. So we have got extensive experience in the implementation of e-procurement systems for the purposes of government. Very, very different to e-procurement for private companies. Government procurement has got very specific requirements.
So in simple terms, does it mean that the system is entirely eliminating the manual aspect? It has to be electronic entirely. You don't need to meet anyone in fiscal during the entire procurement process?
That is very much the case, yes. The entire process runs electronically. It does not remove the need for humans in the process whatsoever. Evaluation of tenders still takes place. Procuring entity tender boards still review the results and make the decisions about the awards. But the ability to manipulate the process is significantly reduced because everything happens electronically. There's no need for intervention on a face-to-face basis during the procurement process.
Thank you very much, sir. So the CEO of PPA himself also had a go at what he thinks are the benefits that government will obtain once they roll out this project.
This project will help strengthen transparency of government procurement. It will increase compliance with procurement policies. It will provide public access to procurement information. We are expecting to have less opportunity for corruptive, collusive, fraudulent, and coercive practices under this system.
So you heard the CEO of the PPA outlining how this policy will be beneficial to government. Earlier in the year, the Vice President spoke about that. A technical advisor at his office represented him at this event, Dr. Gideon Boak, and will be picking his thoughts more on what the Office of the Presidency makes of this development. Doc, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Doc, first and foremost, earlier in the year, the Vice President talked about this project, how it is important. We've heard from the PPA. How crucial is it for the Presidency?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Vice President actually made a surprise visit to the PPA early this year, and it was part of government measures to ensure that, one, the ease of doing business in Ghana goes to a level beyond what we have today. And so government has in place a lot of policies and measures that it wants to undertake to ensure that the overall business framework in this country gets to the level that businessmen and all other people appreciate. And so part of the process is the e-procurement stuff. Part of the process is the streamlining of the GIFMIS system. Then part of the process is also the Registrar General's activities, the DVLA stuff, and then also the issues that have got to do with how addressing systems and the national identification system. And the Vice President is quite particular about this. Government believes that if you are able to streamline all these and push them to appreciable levels, it will enhance the business environment in this country.
So you heard Dr. Gideon Boak. He is a technical advisor of the Office of the Vice President, explaining what this project means for government. Reporting for JoyNews, Joseph Akable.
And we wish Angelos Hatzikyriakos, the leader of the Greek team, procuring that facility for the procurement agency in Ghana. We hope that that would also bring to bear the effective system of implementing the procurement system. And that'll be it for the news. But we have a lot more news. I'll be joined by Mama Vio Samboaje. We'll be looking at the newspapers. We have a couple of them in the studio. Prominent among them, the subject of the backing of the office of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. And then also we'll look at the stories as displayed on the various online portals.